Getting to Diamond cements yourself as a top 10% player in Overwatch. This means that for the vast majority of players, they'll never actually reach Diamond, and it is an achievement, but many fail to get there, even though with these 10 tips, you can get to Diamond incredibly quickly. So we're gonna break it all down, but if you want private coaching, I've gotten players to Masters, Grandmaster, and even top 500, so you could be next. Check it out right now in the links down below. Now, the first thing, and this is the thing that I've always suggested to pretty much every player, but especially if you're underneath the diamond rank, duoing is important and really just free value that you're leaving on the table if you're not doing. The ability to rely on each other, be on the same page, and coordinate is unparalleled. And if you're soloing, you're being thrown against duos anyways, so find a duo that you can rely on and lines up with your hero pool. Now, when you do duo though, especially if you're playing characters that have an ultimate combo, I want you to use them over and over and over again. Don't just combo once as a duo or twice. If you got Ramatra Nano, Nano Blade, or any other combo that exists in the game, I want you to do it as much as physically possible. Try to sync up as much as possible and make sure that when you're ulting, if you're not ulting with your partner or you're waiting for them to get ultimate, your ultimate solo better be getting a lot of value, or you should be waiting for your partner. In addition, everything that y'all are doing should be on the same page. Try to sync up, coordinate, and enable each other, and you're gonna get a lot more value than random solo players. And a lot of solo players are just never gonna have a chance against y'all never making a fight fair. You never allow a fight to be fair or a 1v1 to happen. Now, the next thing that you need to stop doing is stop staggering ever. And I want to make it clear here, your team will perpetually stagger. They will stagger over and over and over again. I mean, it's going to happen, especially the lower in rank you go, the more and more staggers happen. And really, instead of a high-ranked game having maybe 20 full team fights in any given match, a low-ranked game might have like 5 full team fights, and then the rest is just staggered fights where there's never really a full 5v5, which is just crazy to think about, but it's true. Now, the thing that you could do, though, is never be the one that staggers, right? You can't control what your teammates are doing, but you can wait for them, you can wait and spawn, you can realize, oh, the fight's lost, let me wait for my team to respawn, out of spawn, be patient, be disciplined, and group up with your team as much as possible. This can reduce the average amount of staggers that happen on any team that you're in, and especially if you're duoing. Now, all of a sudden, your team is less prone to staggering just due to the fact that you and your partner are not going to be the ones to do it. This is such an important concept, but you would be surprised how just tweaking your play slightly here and being the one that's more patient and the one that doesn't make this very common mistake that everyone makes is going to get you to the next level. Now, another one is reading the flow of the fight. And I know that this kind of seems complex and hard to do, but it's not. All I want you to do is take a mental note of who is the advantage team in a fight. How many people are alive on both sides? If someone dies on the enemy team, think advantage. Someone dies on your team, then now you're at parity. Now 2 people is dead on the enemy team. You got an advantage. It is your job to understand when a fight is winnable, when a fight is already lost, when a fight is being lost. There's all these different ways in which the fight could be actually playing out, and you need to know that flow because it's going to help make your decision. And I understand you're focusing on your abilities, you're focusing on your mechanics, but this is such an important thing where you're always keeping one eye or one part of your mind on that kill feed on the top right, understanding who's having that advantage. When you have, oh, I have an advantage, I can push. When you're like, oh, we're down people, we need to pull back, we need to reserve our health and our cooldowns, or when you need to invest ultimates. This is a super important skill and something that doesn't really take that long to do if you just test yourself and actually think about it as much as you possibly can in the middle of the fight. Oh, are we winning? Are we losing? How many people are alive? These are things that you can really quickly do. I literally want someone to be able to like quickly cover your eyes and then you tell me who is advantaged and disadvantaged in the fight. How many people are alive and dead on both teams? You should be able to do that, and this is something that you have to practice and think about or you're never going to be able to. Now, next up, we do got to talk about positions and improving your positions. It gives you more options. It makes you harder to kill. And if you are in good positions, you're just going to die a lot less and win more games. And the core to this, the only thing I really want you to focus on is corners. Oftentimes, playing a corner, playing an edge, playing something that allows you to break line of sight from the enemy team whenever you want to gives you all the power and strength that you need out of a good position. If you need your cooldowns back, well, I'm breaking line of sight. You need health back. Oh, I'm breaking line of sight so I can't get shot. You just don't want to fight an enemy anymore. or you don't want them to know where you are? Well, breaking line of sight. It's a really simple concept, but if you ever go into a replay viewer and just go look at any fight underneath the diamond rank and just pause the fight, and you'll see players standing in the middle of the open all the time. No one's next to a corner. People are all away from natural cover. And the big question that you need to always be asking yourself is there a place that I could do a very similar or the same job, the same damage, the same healing, the same whatever I'm doing, and be safer? Be closer to a wall, be closer to a corner, because understand that if you get shot right now, if a diva bomb flies over your head, if a high noon pops off, can you get to cover in time? How long is it going to take you? 5 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second? The lower in time you get that, the better and stronger your positions are. Now, I actually can't stress this enough. Don't be afraid to press Q or press your ultimate. I find it a lot of the time in big battles, no one will press a Q first in a team fight, and then when your team starts pressing Qs, all of a sudden, you're just like, oh, I'm guaranteed to get value out of this Q. I know that the fight is probably already won, but I'm just going to press it anyways, and then you just dump like 3, 4, 5 ults into a team fight. Oftentimes, ults are guaranteed a pretty substantial amount of value if you pop them before anyone dies. Like in a 5v5, you can be okay with starting a fight off with a Q. It's okay to start a fight off with an ultimate. And oftentimes when I see Kiriko's holding their ult until, you know, they're either under so much pressure they feel like they have to use it, and that's really where it's not going to get as much value because they're on the back foot with it, or they only use it when they're already up 2 or 3 people, and yeah, you used it, but you would have won that fight anyways. A big part of winning fights is taking the initiative, and your ultimate is a fantastic way to do so. Now, I'm not saying don't ult in a disadvantage ever, and I'm not saying don't ult in the middle of the fight, but what I am saying is don't be afraid to use your ult as the catalyst to kick off the fight with a hefty advantage for your team. Now, I know a lot of you don't want to calm because you feel like your comms are just being ignored, like no one listens to it. But I promise you that pinging is something that gives you so much value and way too few people do it. You see an enemy in a weird spot, an off angle, on a flank, ping them. If you see someone that you're going to shoot or will shoot, ping them. If you see someone that you want your team to focus, ping them. Now, the third one, make sure that you're not pinging tanks that are like safe or like with their team or whatever. You're not supposed to focus them anyways. We've talked about that a million times, but use your ping to focus your team. It's super simple, but it's actually so strong. If you call out a person, your team doesn't necessarily know where they are. You say, hey, shoot the tracer. If that tracer's on an off angle or in your back line, your team doesn't necessarily know. And if you just say on the flank, they might turn around and have no idea what you're talking about. It's kind of like if someone says, hey, heal me, and you're like, who the hell do I heal? If they say, heal me, who am I looking at? And they look around, they can't find it. What if they say, I need healing? If they actually ping it in the system, it shows them exactly who asked for it and where they are. It's way easier. It's the same thing with ping system. It's amazingly powerful and something that you should do often. But speaking of which, let's move on to number 7, which it's a team effort for certain threats that you're up against. And I know team effort sounds scary, especially when we're talking about just ranked in general, but metal ranks for sure. And the thing is, there's certain characters that it's like all hands on deck to deal with. If you are a tank or if you are a support or anything, and you think, oh, Mike Cassidy, it's your job to deal with the Far Mercy and not ours. Like, if you don't do that job, we're going to flame you, but we're not going to help you. No, that's not how it is. That is like an Avengers level threat, and it needs the entire squad. Because really, if you're a tank, you should be trying to help your hit scans take the space that they need to contest the Pharah. If you're a support, you should be helping your solo DPS or whoever actually get the resources they need to take a prolonged duel with the Pharah and keep them in check. And from every role, you should be also trying to shoot the Pharah, shoot the Mercy, harass these characters as much as possible. Realize that it's not any one person's job, and you could be praying for your hit scan to be a god and just 2-tap the Pharah the second they peek out of the sky. But I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to come in close here. If they could do that, they would not be in your rank. They would be in a much higher rank. Now, that's just the reality of it. So you need to find places in which you can still impact these games. You can't just be like, oh, if my hit scan can't do it alone, then we just lose automatically because there's nothing I can do, and then you just like take these losses on the chin. No, there's always ways to apply pressure to other people on the team. There's always ways to help your team deal with any threats, and it's a team effort. Even if your team isn't the best, you're still trying to enable them and help them because they have the tools to deal with the threat better than you, so it's your job to enable them to do so. Now, next up, let's talk about diamond. dying to tanks. And this is probably the biggest mistake that happens to most players, like I would say underneath the diamond rank by far. And it's just dying to a tank all the time as a squishy. If you are dying to a Junker Queen and you're an Ana, if you are dying to a Junker Queen and you're a Cass, I don't really care what character you are, but if you're dying to their Hammond solo or any of these tanks that are not going in with tons of synergies and coordination, but they're just walking up to you and killing you, then you're playing way too close to that target. You're not being actively aware of the tank threat, and oftentimes you'll see players complain to their other tank about keeping the other tank in check. And I will say that it is a tank's job sometimes to keep a tank in check, but if a Zara could just beeline to you, a Junker Queen could beeline to you and just get to you and kill you, and there's nothing you could do about it, then you're greatly messing up positionally. And that's the one person that I don't want you dying to, is their tank over and over and over again. So think about how their tank engages, what ranges are they best at, and how you can play in a place, whether that's the slight high ground, whether that's far away, whether that's with your team, wherever it is, where can you play so that that tank solo cannot just keep bodying you over and over and over again. If they're just farming you and you're dying to them, it's no one's fault but your own. Now, moving on to the 9th thing, and this is kind of a hard truth, but it's important to understand. Sometimes you're gonna have to carry games. Sometimes you realize that enabling your team, trying to play the most optimal Overwatch, trying to coordinate and communicate, none of that is really gonna matter when it all is said and done. You need to play your best hero, and you need to have the highest individual impact as you possibly can. The reality of it is, every single person who got to Diamond had to hard carry players who absolutely did not deserve a win. Like, sometimes you're gonna have to do it. You're never gonna just be able to coast to Diamond without ever having to dig deep and do it all yourself and literally put these characters or these players in your backpack. And if you don't believe me, ask any single person that is underneath the Diamond rank, are your teammates good? Do you ever get good teammates? Or do you have great teammates in every game? Every person will complain about their teammates. Literally every person will complain. You'll complain, people will complain about you, people will complain about everything. So if everyone is universally getting these, like, you know, brain dead teammates, then how does anyone climb? And the reality of it is, sometimes you just need to carry. I know it sucks, but that's just the reality. Now, the last thing that we need to talk about is consistency. And I want you to just imagine that you play 10 games a day. I don't know how much you play, but just imagine. But if you were playing your best in every one of those games, you would have a 7 out of 10. And you would have a 70% win rate and quickly climb. But because of being tired, tilted, the fact that you didn't warm up, so in the first 2 games of the day you're playing bad, you have a 50-50% or even less than that, and you would be a much higher rank if you kept this consistency in check. And it's just really important to understand how making sure that you are playing at your optimal condition, or at the very least understanding when you're playing way off of it and you need to take a break, you need to detilt, you need to make sure that you're warming up, or any of the other tools that you have in some of my other videos. This is what you need to understand, because otherwise you could be a much better player that is being held back and not reaching the rank that you really do deserve skill-wise, but you're not being consistent. Now, I know I said that was the last one, but there's one more I want to sneak in there, and it's the relationship between ego and confidence. I know that it's hard to justify an ego sometimes when you're in lower rank and you see some of these streamers and pros and players pop off and do some insane stuff, and you're like, I can't do that. But you do need to understand that if you have zero ego or zero confidence, you're not going to be able to make the plays that you should be. And it's important for you to be confident in what you can achieve, and sometimes take those wins and be like, I can do it. I believe in myself. I'm going to go and be aggressive, be proactive, and, you know, you're healthily stroking that ego. Now, it's important for you to understand that you can have that confidence, that ego in the game, but the second that you're out of the game, I want you to evaluate yourself realistically. I don't want you to think of yourself super highly. I want you to be very pragmatic with yourself and evaluate that your skills are just not quite there yet. And there were mistakes that you made and things that you could have done better. But while you're in the game, I want you to approach things with a certain level of confidence. And if you're going to make a decision at all, make it all the way. Like, make a full decision. Don't be too scared to mess up that you're just afraid to do anything, afraid to try anything, because who knows, it could have worked, or maybe it won't, but evaluate that after the fact. And I think you're gonna do just fine. But if you need some special help, I have helped over 100+ players get to Grandmaster in Overwatch 2, and you can be next if you sign up in my Patreon, links down below. But thanks so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.